to Triple Zeros. I'm Josh Buckhalter. Follow me on Twitter at Josh G. Buck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, the website, clockersports.com, and the email address is clockersports@gmail.com. Exciting week of NFL action just wrapped up. Monday Night Football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got a much greater than expected fight from the New York Giants. They did end up pulling away in that game, coming away with a 25-23 victory, but like I said, 25-23, 2 points is not the margin. I think the spread was 12.5, so seeing the Giants only lose by 2 is quite impressive. New York's defense has been, I think, better than even I thought, and I thought they would be better than advertised. They play not great. It's really weird. They kind of muck it up so that, you don't really have a very clean game. They were in Tom Brady's face all game, and you kind of worry. If you're a Bucs fan, you have to wonder about the protection that Brady has, because a few times you've seen him get knocked around behind not very great offensive lines. Now, granted, the Giants were able to march down the field and get some scores against this defense that are pretty atypical, but you still are kind of surprised to see what goes on when that offensive line is faced with some kind of stringent pressure. So. Other action going around the league, we already talked about on the last episode, the Falcons coming away with a victory over the Panthers 25-17. In other news, you had the Buffalo Bills down in the Patriots 24-21. We'll get into some of these games as we'll talk about some of the moves here. But you also have the Dolphins stunning the Rams 28-17 as Tua Tagovailoa got his first win. Now, he got his first win and he threw a touchdown, but he only threw for 93 yards. It wasn't a quarterback game. This was a defensive game. Jared Goff had 4 turnovers in the first half. It was just an ugly, ugly performance by the Rams, as they just couldn't do this a week ago when they played the Bears in prime time. But whatever. Back to that Patriots-Bills game, though. I do want to talk about that. This game, Cam Newton didn't throw a pick. He also didn't throw a touchdown. And worse yet, he lost the game-losing fumble. It's been rough for Cam. And listen, if you know me, you know that Cam is my favorite player. He did rush for a touchdown, by the way. Cam has been my favorite player since he entered the league, and to see him go out like this is kind of sad. Now, granted, I feel like this is kind of two-pronged. I don't think he's helped himself at all. We know that he draws attention to himself with the way he dresses. I don't really care about that, though. I feel like if you're going to do it, then you got to be able to take the criticism. He hasn't always done that, so that needs to be better, but it's been better this year so far. We'll see how long that keeps up, but I'd rather see him just improve the play. And while I want to see that from him, I do want to point out that I'm not sure exactly what we expected of him with the surrounding cast that he has. This is the same team that we questioned around Tom Brady. Now, I'm not saying that Cam is a 40-something-year-old quarterback right now or moves like one even if he, in his diminished state, he moves better than Tom Brady does. But you didn't improve it enough at all. You didn't improve it at all, but you definitely didn't improve it enough to expect significant steps forward from a guy who is not as good of a quarterback. Listen, as much as Cam's my favorite, he's still not as good of a quarterback as Tom Brady. I can admit that. So if I can admit that, I'm pretty sure that the Patriots can admit that. And I don't know if that they really expected to go into this and win much without putting much around him. You can't bring in a Cam Newton coming off of the injuries that he's come off of and expect him to carry this unit. You just can't. So maybe this is part of their plan to ultimately go down this path. They cracked the top 10 in the draft order, and we'll address that in a second at the midway point of the season. So who knows? There was a breakout game in this one, though, and it was Damien Harris. Not breakout, but another consistent game. Damien Harris, 16 carries, 102 yards, and a touchdown. He made the waiver wire list for Clocker Sports, so be sure to look out for that. That should be coming out sometime tomorrow morning. I believe 7 o'clock it drops. So Damien Harris did make the list of running backs. There's some good backs on that list, and he's not even close to the best one. So just wanted to get that option out there. The other one, the best one, did play in this game. That was Zach Moss. 2 touchdowns, 81 yards. Him and Devin Singletary both got 14 carries, but Moss got the carries inside the 10, and that's what you want to pay attention to, and clearly the 2 touchdowns. He won't get that every game, but that's a good occurrence to have. The Pittsburgh Steelers took out the Baltimore Ravens 28-24. This was in Baltimore in a game that was ugly, and It ended up with Hollywood Brown taking to social media to complain about his role in the offense right now. Meanwhile, the Steelers are just finding ways to get it done. Ben Roethlisberger hasn't looked great. The offense hasn't looked great, but they just keep finding ways to get wins. And to be honest with you, when I look at it, I don't necessarily see where a loss comes from. So let's say they're going to beat Dallas. They're going to beat Cincinnati. They're going to beat Jacksonville. They get Baltimore in Week 12. Maybe Baltimore beats them. But this is in Pittsburgh at that point. So, I mean, you could see it because this was a close game as it was. But then they take on Washington. Buffalo. Does Buffalo beat them in Buffalo? Maybe. Maybe Buffalo comes away with one. So that's a second loss maybe I can see. Week 16, they take on Indianapolis. That's another possible one. And then Cleveland to wrap up the season. But if they don't lose to Buffalo or Indianapolis, I'm not sure that I see them losing another game. Now, granted, that's 3 losses I just told you potentially right there in Baltimore, Buffalo, and Indianapolis. But 2 of those games are at home. So there's a legit shot. We'll call it a legitimate shot that the Steelers go 16-0. There's a chance. I don't want to say legit. There's a chance. You don't want to get too far out over the skis there. Maybe once they get past Week 12, I'll say legit shot. But they have a chance. It's possible. It's very plausible that the Steelers can go 16-0. Now, health will have to hold up. That's going to be key. It's been a very tricky thing throughout this entire offseason. They just acquired inside linebacker Avery Williamson from the Jets for a 5th-round pick in a day that really saw a lot of trades kick off. We'll talk about the rest of those and what might be on the horizon. Maybe not necessarily this season before the deadline, but definitely in the offseason, something that could be coming up. Some ideas that could be coming up. Continuing around the league, Titans fell to the Bengals 31-20. Now, this is bad because the Titans have now lost 2 games in a row after having that game against the Steelers. They're going to come in against the Bears in Week 9 and just lay the wood. Derrick Henry's going to run for about 250. He might crack 200 yards. And the Bears have a good run defense. I'm not even trying to down the run defense. Terrifying. But 31-20. Joe Burrow is just the truth. I don't know what else there is to say about the young man. And Tennessee's defense isn't all that grand. Derrick Henry still had over 100 yards. It just wasn't enough. Tennessee's defense has been bad. They just traded for Desmond King from the Los Angeles Chargers for a late round pick. I want to say this one was also a 5th-round pick. 6th-round pick from the Titans to the Chargers in exchange for Desmond King. Chris Harris's arrival in Los Angeles made King expendable. The Chargers, with their record as it is, not competing for any type of postseason, are moving guys on those 1-year deals, expiring contracts such as King, and he makes a perfect addition to, like I just said, a Tennessee defense that definitely could use some assistance in that back end there. You have the Las Vegas Raiders, nailed it, taking down the Cleveland Browns 16-6. This one pissed me off because I was going to put some money on this one. Everywhere that I read was saying the Browns are going to cover. The Browns are going to cover. I don't know why I ever believed the Browns would do anything right. Vegas, by the way, though, is having a hell of a run. Derek Carr having a career year, and they are quietly, I think, a piece away from making some serious noise in the AFC. And maybe they get that done at the deadline. That's a deal that we'll talk about here in a moment. The Jets fell to the Chiefs 9-35. Nothing to see here. Moving along. Patrick Mahomes, though, did have himself a hell of a day, throwing 5 touchdowns, 416 yards. So, got to mention that. That definitely occurred. Le'Veon Bell, 6 carries, 7 yards. What? I know the Jets were focused on not letting him do anything. He did catch 3 passes for 31 yards as well, but that is not the type of production you were expecting to see. Now, granted, they smacked him anyway, but they were not. The Jets were not going to let Le'Veon Bell be the one to do it. So that is what it is. That's just kind of how it goes. The Colts beat the Lions 41-21 in a game that I thought would be much closer. The Colts decided to play like they are very much capable of. Phillip Rivers, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Jonathan Wilkins stepped up for is it Jonathan or Jordan? Jordan Wilkins. I always do that to his name. Jordan Wilkins stepped up in, I don't want to say in place of, but in in the stead of one Jonathan Taylor, as he's dealing with an ankle sprain we found out after the fact, and had 89 yards on 20 carries and a touchdown against the Lions. Now, that's an interesting development because Taylor is selected in the first round, but has not been a very efficient runner these past few weeks here. So maybe there's something there that they can shake it up and get some more production out of that backfield, because I know that that's what they want to do more. And if they can't, that's a big problem, especially with the way Rivers has been playing for most of the season. The Green Bay Packers fell to the Minnesota Vikings. That's right, the Vikings actually got revenge for their earlier season loss. They won this one 28-22, but they still let Davante Adams absolutely go nuts. 3 touchdowns. He had caught 7 passes, only 53 yards, but 3 touchdowns on 7 catches. That's pretty good. Those are all 3 of Rodgers' touchdowns, 291 yards for him. Jamal Williams, 75 yards on the ground. Minnesota, you got 163 yards from Dalvin Cook and 3 touchdowns, and he caught another touchdown with 2 catches and 63 yards through the air. So Cook was he was the entire offense for the Minnesota Vikings, as Davante Adams was pretty much for the Green Bay Packers. This time, though, the Vikings came out victorious. This is something I hope I got to go back and watch this film, and hopefully the Bears are doing so as well, because I don't know how they managed to pull this off, because the Vikings have looked dead in the water for most of the season, but they've shown some life here, and have shown that's probably the best game that they could do it, right? That's the best spot for them to pop back up is against Green Bay. They needed that more than anything in the world. So I still think that they're toast, but it was a good win. I hope it probably saved Mike Zimmer's job. I don't know. Packers are a better team, so I don't know, but it gave him a little more leeway in what has been a really dismal season. The Denver Broncos needed a last-second touchdown, but they did get it and overcame the Los Angeles Chargers 31-30. Drew Lock made the waiver wire as well. In this one was pretty bad. He's been shaking off some rust, but he ended up finishing with 248 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. He also ran 2 times, but that was just negative 1 yard. So not good stuff there. Philip Lindsay, 6 carries, 83 yards, and a touchdown in his return. And on the other end, you had Justin Jackson running for 89 yards and 70 carries. Mike Williams, 99 yards and a touchdown on 5 receptions. And Keenan Allen catching 9 passes, 67 yards and a touchdown. As Justin Herbert threw 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. He's got to stop with the turnovers. It was an all shucks thing in the beginning, because it was kind of hard luck. They kept losing by turnover, but when you keep contributing to it yourself, I mean, there's only so much that you can be excused for. The Chicago Bears have fallen to 5-3 after losing to the New Orleans Saints 26-23 in a game that felt very much like their loss to the Indianapolis Colts a few weeks ago, where they were right there and then let them kind of break away from them. When the Bears have played good offensive lines, they have struggled. They were pretty okay. They did okay against the Bucs, who don't have a good offensive line themselves, because they could generate pressure and kind of create some havoc, kind of level the playing field. But when these teams can protect the quarterback, the Bears are in trouble. They don't have an exotic way to break your protection scheme down if you block up their 4 guys rushing. And then if they do it, it's very late in the game. It's too late, and they're probably going to blow it because they haven't been doing it a lot throughout the rest of the season. So that being said, a lot of their timid nature is due to the offense not being able to make up ground. So I don't necessarily fault them for it. I'm just calling it as I see it. The New Orleans Saints, though, racked up a hellified amount of yardage with Alvin Kamara, as he came away with 63 yards combined on 21 touches. Backs have been problems for the Bears. This was both running and through the air. The running not so much, but the air was just deadly. It's Alvin Kamara, so you kind of have to take weight it a little bit for the Bears. But we also got to see the Darnell Mooney quote-unquote breakout game, as he caught 5 passes for 69 yards and 1 touchdown, though he was somewhat overshadowed by both teammates. Allen Robinson with 6 catches, 87 yards and a touchdown, and Anthony Miller 8 catches for 73 yards. Still, Darnell Mooney got to connect with Nick Foles on a deep 50-yard pass that I think we'd all been waiting to see for most of the season. The Seattle Seahawks beat up on a already beat up and got further beat up 49ers team, 37-27 for the Seahawks in this one. The Niners lost George Kittle and Jimmy Garoppolo for an extended period of time. It's going to be rough in San Francisco. They traded away Quan Alexander to the New Orleans Saints in a move that actually works out for the 49ers because they get $12.5 million plus each of the next 2 seasons off the books in exchange for Kiko Alonso and a conditional 5th-round pick. This is an interesting tidbit for Kiko Alonso. He's been traded 4 times, this per Field Yates of ESPN. 4 times for Kiko Alonso he's been traded. From Buffalo to Philadelphia for LaShawn McCoy. From Philadelphia to Miami for draft picks. From Miami to New Orleans for Vince Beigel. And from New Orleans to San Francisco for Quan Alexander. Hashtag Tobias Harris. First of all, that first trade and that last trade are pretty solid. If I am one Kiko Alonso, who was a sought-after commodity in his own right, relatively, in his hay, that's a good haul. You're getting back guys who Quan Alexander started 5 games this year. Back in the day, LaShawn McCoy was one of the best backs in the league. So that's a solid. You're good fodder, man. Kiko Alonso, that's an accomplishment. It has to be. In this, especially in this day and age. I don't know how it can't be. The Dallas Cowboys lost 9-23 to the Philadelphia Eagles. This one, it's not even really worth discussing. Ben DiNucci got his first start. He struggled mightily, completing 21 of 40 passes for 180 yards, no touchdowns, no picks though. So that was nice. But it's just a struggle for Dallas right now. And the Eagles, as much as Carson Wentz struggled, because he threw 2 picks in addition to his 2 touchdowns as well, they just have the talent. And it's funny that you don't see too many teams who are healthier. Too many times the Eagles are healthier than their opponent. But this was definitely one of them, especially when one of the injuries for the opponent is at the quarterback position. So, not surprising. Dallas is in for a long year. We touched on it a little bit during that rundown. The trade season is upon us. You got the 49ers and Quan Alexander to the Saints for Kiko in the 5th-round pick. Chargers Desmond King to the Titans for the 6th-round pick due to Chris Harris's arrival. Avery Williamson goes to the Jets for a 5th round, from the Jets to the Steelers for a 5th-round pick, and the Seahawks get Carlos Dunlap for B.J. Finney and a 7th-round pick from the Cincinnati Bengals. Lions also got Everson Griffin for a 6th-round pick. And we can't forget Yannick Ngakoue going for a conditional 3rd and a conditional 5th from the Vikings to the Ravens. I have a couple other ideas. One, maybe you could see it this season, and the other one you'd probably have to wait to the next season, to the offseason, to see it happen. But Julio Jones going to the Raiders. I touched on this a couple of episodes ago, and I still got to work out the logistics. I'll be honest with you, but we know that you can work around most cap situations with some creativity in the NFL if you really want to. And I think that you could do it, and I just think that this would be something that will put them over the top. Now, maybe you go cheaper, and maybe they try to get like an A.J. Green out of Cincinnati, but Julio would be great. Granted, he and Matt Ryan have both said that they don't want to be traded, but we know how that goes, especially if they start losing games again. They could be in some serious trouble as far as that goes. Speaking of Matt Ryan, though, what about, and this one probably have to wait to the offseason, but what about, hear me out, Matt Ryan to the Patriots? He's a Boston College guy, right? Went to BC. The Patriots are definitely a team. Bill Belichick in particular at the helm is definitely a pro-style drop-back passer type of system, team, franchise deal, right? It's not a good fit. I liked it. It's not a good fit. Or it hasn't been a great fit. How about that? I think Matt Ryan's a better fit. How about that even still? Matt Ryan to the Patriots will give both of them what they seek most. Bill would get a couple more years to try to prove that it's his system and not necessarily Brady. Matt Ryan can finally try to exercise some of those demons with the playoffs and the blowing of leads and not performing great in big games. I would like to see that. That'd be nice. We'll have some other all-season ideas because I'm not sure that there's going to be too much more movement at the trade deadline. Now, I'm probably wrong because I didn't see what we saw today with King and Alexander happening either. But I don't think we're going to see too much more with the way the cap situation is and the loss of revenue that's been experienced this season with no fans in the stands. So those are just two, and that's just Atlanta. And like I said, both of those guys have said they don't want to be traded, but those are two good options that I think are out there for teams that they are really trying to find something to put them over the top, or in case for Matt Ryan and the Patriots, something to look forward to maybe this offseason. Taking an early peek at the draft class, or the NFL draft, we can look at the top 10 that's been set now. Well, not set. It's not set. But as it sits now, as it stands right now, with the Jets, Giants, and Jaguars sitting at 1, 2, and 3, the obvious question here is, are we going to have QBs go 1, 2, 3? I think if it's those three teams, it's almost a foregone conclusion. I'm not sure who Jacksonville is trying to trade back with to get them to come all the way up there for somebody that Jacksonville themselves wouldn't want. And the only person I'm seeing you coming up for to that spot in this draft is a quarterback. Is Trey Lance worth that? I don't know. But I think that's what we end up seeing here. Because, again, I'm not sure that you see somebody. Nobody's trading up to 3 to take Jamar Chase. As much as I like Jamar Chase, I don't see him going 3rd. What was the last one? Charles Rodgers? Was Charles Rodgers the last wide receiver to go 3? I'm not seeing that coming here with Jamar Chase. Regardless of how talented I think he is, I just don't see that happening. So I think you could legitimately see QBs go 1, 2, 3. And with that, I think you see both Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields in New York. Now, I know both of these teams recently took quarterbacks. Trevor Simeon. I always want to do that to him. Sam Darnold. It's the USC thing. Sam Darnold, Trevor Simeon went to Northwestern, by the way. Sam Darnold, more so than Daniel Jones you feel for, because Darnold seems like he's just been in no man's land out there with Adam Gase and stuff in the green and gold, or green and white. But Daniel Jones seems to want to put himself in harm's way by throwing picks and not protecting the football in general. Fumbles have been an issue for him. Some of the decisions have been bad. He cost his team a shot at victory tonight with a few of the picks that he made, a few of the bonehead decisions, just trying to throw the ball instead of getting rid of it or dirting it even. And so if these two teams wind up in the top of the draft, they're taking quarterbacks. There's no way. First of all, the Jets are taking Trevor Lawrence number 1 no matter what. Trevor Lawrence is going number 1. But if the Giants get number 2, and even if the Jaguars find their way there, it's probably going to be Justin Fields. The only question then is with either the Giants, Jets, or Jaguars, wherever they are, one of those three right now. At 3, do you see a quarterback go at 3rd too? So 1, 2. I think we might see that. We might get 1, 2, 3 in quarterbacks this year, and it'll be a reach for, I think, Fields and for Lance. I like Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he is I don't know about number 1 overall, but I think that's what happens with guys like him. So he's going to be the number 1 overall. I think it's probably a reach for all 3 of them. But it's definitely a reach for Lance. Wherever you pick Lawrence, I would feel very confident picking Fields a pick right behind him. I personally would feel comfortable taking him ahead of Lawrence. But that's neither here nor there. Point being, if you take Lance at 3, you better be convinced that he has it, because that is a high pick for somebody who only played 1 game of college football this year and didn't look all that great. But that leaves me with pick 4 in the Miami Dolphins. Does that mean we see Penei Sewell go to the Miami Dolphins? Now, granted, you could see him land in New York. He might go to Jacksonville if that's 2 and 3. But if he falls to 4, I think it'd be really cool to see him in Tua. And I know it's kind of cheesy, but the Samoan connection there is just something that I think would be really cool for a team like Miami that's trying to form their identity around a young, charismatic quarterback that still needs help in a lot of places. Now, it's kind of I don't want to necessarily say it's a throwaway pick, but the Atlanta Falcons here sitting at 4, right? You're not taking a receiver. This draft is heavy receivers at the top. I don't think they're reaching for an offensive lineman yet. It's not far enough down. Micah Parsons, add to that defense that could definitely use some bodies. They got Foyade Olukun, and he played pretty well. Deion Jones is my boy. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you just at that point, I think you kind of have to. Maybe they try to trade down. Maybe they take Patrick Surtain in that spot. That would be nice. That would be nice for them, Patrick Surtain. They're still kind of high. We're at 5 now. That's still kind of high, but I wouldn't. That's not the worst pick. Now you get kind of interesting. You got Jerry Jones and the Cowboys who are sitting there at 6. And the question I have here: could Jerry Jones honestly pass on Jamar Chase if he was there? They've already got Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup, but they had Michael Gallup and Cooper when they took Lamb. Would they pass on Jamar Chase if he's available? Or would they just be too tempted to take him? I honestly think that's probably too much of a good thing. I see them going either with Gregory Rousseau out of Miami or Patrick Surtain if he was to make it past Atlanta. Atlanta could also be looking at Rousseau, by the way. But it's an interesting question. Could Jerry be tempted by the stature and the athleticism of Jamar Chase? I don't know. Washington football team, Alex Leatherwood, tackle out of Alabama. Is that an option? Is it? Is that what they want to do? I would imagine they have some issues. Trent Williams is gone. They're losing a couple of other linemen this offseason. That could be the best option for them. At number 8, the Chargers, Dylan Moses. Now, granted, they already have Denzel Perryman. They just took Kenneth Murray. This is probably overkill. Dylan Moses is an inside linebacker. You'd be asking him to play outside next to those two guys. I wouldn't hate it, though. That'd be a nasty linebacking core. Caleb Farley, maybe, right? Big Virginia Tech corner. They just got rid of King. They could probably use some more bodies back there in the secondary. Stout defense. You could use some more protection on the back end, though. Or this could be the prime spot for a trade down here to end up with Creed Humphrey out of Alabama, the guard, or Samuel Cosmi, the offensive tackle out of Texas. I could see either one of those moves being possible too, as they try to recoup some more picks, because again, Chargers have some old holes too. As well as exciting and entertaining as they've been, they're not a good team right now. They're a couple pieces away from being a good team, so hopefully that can come together for them really soon, because I like what they're putting together there. The Vikings, they could be looking at Cosmi or possibly edge rusher Carlos Basham out of Wake Forest, because they just lost. They had to trade away Yannick Ngakoue. Who knows what Daniil Hunter's going to come back like. He's having neck surgery. He should come back fine. But just in case, and you can never have too many pass rushers anyway, Basham, I think, is a good fit for the Vikings, sitting right now at pick number 9. And then pick number 10, the Patriots, a place they haven't been in a decade plus, man. Yikes. Sitting there at pick number 10. And I think the perfect fit for them would be Kyle Pitts out of Florida. He's a dynamic weapon at the tight end position. We know that if anybody can scheme the tight end open, it'll be Bill Belichick and company. And so you get the best tight end in the draft, pick 10. I think that's a solid move. Now, granted, they could go any number of ways, including trading down as they are wont to do. But if they stick put and want to get a top tier talent, I think that taking Kyle Pitts there, pick 10, would be a good move for them, should they wind up there once it's all said and done. Injury wrap up real quick. Just touching on, we talked about Garoppolo, Kittle. The Niners also lost Tevin Coleman, who, yes, was just making his return from injury. He went back out with a knee injury. Who knows when he'll be back out on the field. Ronnie Stanley, tackle for the Ravens, is out for the season. Also, check out for the Ravens injury report this coming week, Mark Ingram's status, because Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, who both made the waiver wire, that'll be out tomorrow morning, will be out on Tuesday morning, performed well in his absence as they concentrated that backfield a little bit. So if he's out again, those two could produce again, and maybe even force Baltimore's hand to kind of just run with those two for the rest of the season. Vikings cornerback Cam Danceler had a scary neck injury in the game versus the Green Bay Packers. He was not moving. He was down. They had to stretcher him out, and I'm not even talking about the cart. I'm talking about hand stretcher him out, rolled him off the field, and did get reports later on, though, that he had full range of motions in his extremities, so that's good to hear. Very scary hit, though. It was a very, very scary moment with him down in the field for quite some time, not moving at all. So I wouldn't even say in pain, just not moving. That's probably scarier than in pain. 'Cause at least in pain, you know, they can move their limbs. And then lastly, we have a lost mind. Javon Wims of the Chicago Bears lost his damn mind chasing after Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, safety of the New Orleans Saints. Reportedly, Gardner-Johnson had spit on Wims and was poking Anthony Miller in the face. That part is on video. But snatched mouth guard, stole Wims' mouth guard. So Wims, being ever so of sound mind, decided to run up on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson the next drive after that happened to Wims and try to punch Gardner-Johnson through his helmet. Listen, if you want to handle your business with another man, that's fine. If you got to square up, you got whatever. Whatever. Don't punch a helmet, bro. Don't punch a helmet. Not only did you cost the team 15 yards in a very tightly contested game, the very next play, Nick Foles threw an interception, which is not Wims' fault, but, you know, just things kind of tend to snowball. But not only did you cost the team 15 yards, you cost yourself 2 games, and now you provided a distraction for the awful, awful nature of this offense still. They had some signs. There were some signs, but it wasn't great, and you provided them something else to talk about in lieu of that story. Thanks, Javon Wims. Thanks. We'll talk about the playoff picture on the next episode as we get set for this weekend's slated games with the Browns, Bengals, Eagles, and who else is on a bye this week? There's one more team that is escaping me at the moment, but we'll get into the playoff picture on the next episode, so be sure to check back in for that. Switching gears over to the NBA, a couple of quick stories that I'm keeping an eye on right now. Kelly Oubre has reportedly drawn the interest of the Golden State Warriors. The Suns forward had a breakout or career resurgence. Is it? I don't know. Seeming to find his footing in Phoenix and could be of interest to several teams, including the Golden State Warriors this offseason as they try to fill out their roster and make their second run at a dynasty here in the 2020s. That's an interesting one. I like Wave Poppy, man. I'm not sure. Yeah, I like that move. I don't see any downside. He can defend. He plays with great energy. He can shoot. He can handle the ball a little bit. I don't see any. That's a outstanding move. That would be great. That would also be the rich getting richer, so I don't want to see it. But that would be great. We got to look at some more moves, too. Maybe we'll do that next episode as well. Maybe that'll be the next episode's theme is playoff picture, NBA, trade situations or situations to monitor somewhere. I don't know. We'll workshop the title, I guess. But, yeah, we'll be looking forward to that one. City Unis have been debuted around the NBA. A couple that stood out to me, Chicago, obviously, for obvious reasons. They did model theirs after the Chicago Theater. Very nice, classic-looking jersey design. You had the Golden State Warriors debuting their We Believe stylized Oakland jerseys, which are a very nice tribute to both the We Believe Warriors and the new style, and with the Oakland across the chest. It all comes together quite magnificently. There were good ones. There were some bad ones. I wasn't really a big fan. I believe was it the Nuggets. That one wasn't great. That one wasn't the best one. But I mean, you know, they're not going to all be great. The Bulls one kind of grew on me. I preferred last year's model, obviously, but modeling it after the Chicago Theater sign that's a winner to me. So I'm not mad at it at all. But you know, City Unis, this is how you know we're in the offseason, man. We're getting fired up about City uniforms. I do have a question about a current conglomerate of NBA minds and talent in Philly. You got Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, and Doc Rivers, and then on the floor, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. There's no way this can work, is there? Like, there is legitimately zero chance this is a success. This is a successful grouping. No way. No way. It's not possible. You cannot convince me that these 5 people will all be together and this team will be successful. I don't see it happen. Period. In other staffing news, Maurice Cheeks has joined the staff of Billy Donovan in Chicago. After spending the last 5 years with Donovan down in OKC, he returns to the same position here with the Bulls. I like it. Chicago guy, I like it. Long-term coaching experience and a former player, Hall of Famer, no less. So I'm all for it. If you can have a strong coaching staff, I don't see how that could ever be a deterrent or ever be a bad thing. It's always a positive. So, and then I'll leave you with this. There is still no set start date for the NBA season, and now the quote goes as follows: the NBA's plan to start the 2021 season. This is from Yahoo Sports. The NBA's plan to start the 2021 season on December 22nd is growing less and less likely by the day. A faction of players, including some superstars, is pushing for the league to wait until Martin Luther King Day on January 18th to start the season, as first reported by Yahoo's Chris Haynes. The league, citing $500 million to $1 billion in potential losses, prefers to start early enough to get its traditional slate of Christmas Day games, but with negotiations at an apparent stalemate, the league is pushing for a faster resolution. Adam Silver, quote, "We're running out of time." Wow. So $500,000 to $1 billion, and you want these guys to come in and play for off of less than 2 months rest. Unless you're going to bring in G Leaguers and expand the rosters and like all that stuff for the first couple of months, I don't see this being a viable solution. Maybe you come in before January, maybe start on New Year's. It's like another week. I don't know. 2 months is too short. 22nd to the 18th is almost another month. They're not even asking for a lot of time, so I have a hard time disagreeing with what the players are asking for. But I'm also not surprised at all at what the league is asking for. So I think both are actually pretty reasonable, except for the league has the problem that they're asking these players to turn around and put more stress on their bodies after they just got done doing so from their long hiatus and then getting back into full-blown action for several months. So this is your talent. This is your commodity. You have to weigh the long-term risks against the rewards of trying to make those few games up. So we'll see what happens and what comes of it, but it doesn't look like we're anywhere closer to having a resolution to this situation than we were yesterday. So keep an eye on that. That's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros, man. Be sure to follow on Twitter at JoshyBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com, email address, clockersports@gmail.com. Be sure to read the stuff. Last Word on Pro Football just released the article. The Bears are they're out of excuses and are running out of time. Just talking about how we've seen the quarterback switches now. We've seen the system in place for years, but we keep hearing the same things, and it's the same things happening week in and week out. What's going to change? How can you change it? Who knows? We'll be doing a lot of that with the Bears, I think, coming up in the next few weeks here. So, last round, PippinAintEasy.com for the Bull stuff. Got to get going on a lot of the Bull stuff, man. With offseason kicking up and speculation running rampant, we are still getting close to the NBA draft. So, I believe that's still set for November 18th, but maybe I'm off on that. I need to check that too. Yikes! But we'll get some of those stories, as we have had some rumors of prospects being associated with teams, and maybe that could work out for my Bulls. We'll see. Also check out Last Word on Pro Football, like I said, or Clocker Sports, like I said. Also check out Clocker Sports. The waiver wire article will be out Tuesday afternoon. Be on the lookout for the betting primetime moneymakers article. We're going to try and do one for the non-primetime games as well. Maybe pick 3 or 4 of those and see how we're going to lay some money. And maybe do another early waiver wire on Sunday evening before the night game starts to get some guys on your mind about who you might want to pick up. So that being said, until the very next time, you already know what it is, man. I'm gone.